Little adjustment there, huh? Good morning. Good morning. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the December 29th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, our last meeting of 2016. My name is Shelley Bueller, and I serve as chair of the commission alongside my colleagues, Commissioner Bob Archer and Commissioner Kevin Cook. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back to the continental United States.
Yes, the mainland. Madam Clerk, the first item, please.
Unfinished business, number 1. Consider change orders number 1 and number 2 to contract C-190, 2016 with Bettis Asphalt and Construction for construction of the parking lot adjacent to the new Shawnee County Health Agency building for an additional amount of $36,299.75, resulting in a final contract price of $249,296.15.
Good morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This item is regarding the parking lot directly across the street on McVicker from the health agency. There were several changes that Cook, Flatt, and Strobel, who are our engineers on that project, weren't anticipating from the city of Topeka that came through, amounting to a pretty significant change in the price. But it does meet the code compliance requirements for the city. The parking lot is now completed, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Bill. Are there questions from the commission?
These are, Madam
Yes.
Chair, these are expenses we could not have foreseen in working with the city on this project. Money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. Kevin Holland at Cook, Flatt, and Strobel battled with the city on several of these issues, and they did not give an inch. The initial anticipation for that project was the contract price that they gave us. There were several, as far as the green space goes, we ended up putting in a lot of new green space. The city wouldn't let us keep our old green space, which was next to the creek and the trees and things that Cook, Flatt, and Strobel thought, well, that should meet the requirement for the square footage of green space required, but the city wasn't having it. So, and then irrigation and everything had to go in. So we wanted asphalt, and we ended up with a lot more than just asphalt.
Bill, a follow-up question, though. For the parking lot, the city is installing a street light?
Yeah, they will be putting in a street light at the crosswalk.
Okay.
On their PAL system with Westar Energy,
Okay.
with the PAL contract.
That's good, because that's a pretty dark corner.
Yeah, especially this time of year, it's extremely dark there.
Okay.
So.
All right, thank you. Further questions or a motion?
I would move to approve as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Consent agenda.
There are 9 items on the consent agenda. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
Second.
second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
New business, A, County Clerk, number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Madam Chair, this morning we have one voucher report dated December 28th, 2016. Total amount of the vouchers, $2,811,782.67. Significant items on the voucher report include capers and payroll for $1.2 million. Excuse me. Bridge project for $204,000, health insurance of $282,000, and public works expense of $190,000. I've reviewed the vouchers, and my questions have been addressed, so I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 2, consider correction orders.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 3, consider approval and authorization of resolution number 2016-89, authorizing a 2017 cereal malt beverage license to La Roca's Pizza Express, located at 5145 Southwest Topeka Boulevard, Topeka, Kansas, including Sunday sales.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item B, Bond Council, number 1, consider approval of resolution number 2016-90, amending County Resolution number 2015-61 to reflect an increase in project costs and corresponding increase in the county's issuance of its taxable industrial revenue bonds from $26 million to an estimated $36 million.
Good morning, Bob Perry, Bond Counsel. In July of 15, you passed and approved Resolution 2015-61, which expressed the county's intent to issue its industrial revenue bonds in an approximate amount of $26 million, the proceeds from which were to construct a facility for the Federal Home Loan Bank on land that was to be acquired with the bond proceeds. The Federal Home Loan Bank has determined that the size of the facility has grown from 85,000 square feet to approximately 95,000 square feet, and the costs have risen from approximately $26 million to approximately $36 million. This resolution reflects the increase in the size of the facility as well as the increase in the taxable industrial revenue bonds proposed to be issued. Before you consider this resolution, you're going to need to conduct a public hearing to allow the public to present any comments or questions they may have on the project, the bond issue, and the ad valorem tax exemption requested by the Federal Home Loan Bank.
Okay, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. And if there are any comments by anyone in the audience, we'll take those at this time. No? I know we do have some representatives
That's
from
correct.
Federal Home Loan Bank. Pat, do you want to say anything? Or?
Pat Doran, Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Federal Home Loan Bank. We appreciate the support we have received previously with the IRB. As has been shared, we're excited to announce that the size of the building has increased by 10,000 square feet. The additional cost is directly associated with that expanded size of the building.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Pat? All right. Thanks, Pat. Is there a motion on this item?
I'll
Any
move
questions?
no, I don't. I'll move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution. And notice that every morning when I drive to work, I see the building going up, and it's an exciting time. Thank you for being here, Pat.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Happy
all.
New Year, folks.
You too.
Item C, Planning, number 1, consider approval of Home Rule Resolution number 2017-1, establishing a Shawnee County Building Code, first reading.
And
Good morning,
Barry,
Commissioners.
Before you get started, just a note that as all home rule resolutions, it is a first reading, so we aren't taking any action on the final resolution today. Go ahead, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Barry Beagle, Shawnee County Planning Department. On December 5th, the Building Code Committee submitted their proposal to you, which was the conclusion of a year-long effort with regard to the establishment of a building code in the unincorporated area of Shawnee County. At that time, the County Commission elected to go ahead and direct me to prepare a resolution to adopt Phase 1 for the building code, and then also for the Building Code Committee to go back and continue to have discussions with the City of Topeka about the possibility of an interlocal agreement to extend their building code program into the county or proceed with the original proposal and its financing scheme for a county-only building code program. So the resolution which is before you today provides for the adoption of the building codes and their means of enforcement through a affidavit of code compliance, contractor licensing, and the same. So I'll keep my comments brief and ask for any questions of the Commission.
Thank you, Barry. Are there questions on this item? Actually, on the second page, and I'm trying to bring it up here, I had a question, and I asked Jim Crow before the meeting. It's one section, and Jim, can you bring that up? You have it? I know you have it right there.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crow, Shawnee County Councilor. Yes, when I was reviewing this item, I noted the same language.
Can you read that language?
Yeah, it says, and this is on page 2 of the cover resolution, the Home Rule Resolution. It says, "Be it further resolved that any provisions therein which would solely apply to areas within the city limits of any unincorporated municipality shall be deemed to be of no force or effect." I would redraft this to track more closely If you turn to the next page and you look at page 1 under jurisdiction, it says, "The Shawnee County Building Code shall apply to the unincorporated area of the county." That's what the intent should be.
Right.
So the language should mirror that, because
Just make it clear.
that's where we would intend to apply it, and not in any incorporated cities within Shawnee County.
Right, okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Beagle, when we met on December the 5th and directed you to go back, it was my understanding that the motion made was to draft a resolution for a code that would create a private cause of action. This seems to go significantly beyond that by creating permitting, licensures, the creation of a Board of Appeals, collection of fees. How did we get so much farther than what the motion was made?
Well, this doesn't take away from the private cause of action. This just provides for the mechanism by which to administer and enforce the building code itself. The building codes are over 1,000 pages of codes, between the international codes, the uniform codes, and they do not enforce themselves. And so we needed to have a mechanism in place by which to provide for their enforcement and administration, and that's what this does. The responsibility to assure that construction which is occurring in the county is accordance to the code still falls upon the contractor. Number one, that they have to put up their license within Shawnee County to be recognized as a licensed contractor, and that is necessary for them to submit an affidavit of code compliance with their building permit application. So they assume all responsibility for their construction work that they are doing. But the rest of this, the Appendix A, provides for just the standard boilerplate language associated with the administration of the code itself.
Fellow commissioners, this goes far beyond what I think that we had discussed or directed on December the 5th, and I'm fully supportive of the creation of a building code for Shawnee County, championed that as under my tenure as a chair to get this started, but this goes far beyond what we had contemplated on December the 5th, and if this is what's presented for approval, I will not be voting for this document, just to let the commission know and the public know. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coe. Commissioner Archer?
I agree 100%. The fact is, this goes way beyond the scope of the assignment that we made to the planning director, and I'm sort of disappointed that we got this, because what we said was, let's have a building code that we can support and communicate that building code, but as far as administering, as far as monitoring, as far as enforcing that building code, that's up in the air. We could go from not doing anything as far as enforcement to working with the city, to using an affidavit process, to hiring the 3 employees that you wanted to hire and go from there. But I would like to see an array of options and to include cost and benefit, advantages and disadvantages of whatever way we go. And I haven't seen that information yet, and I'm not going to support this either. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, if I may, just in defense of what is before you, like I say, the adoption of the building codes in and of itself, that assumes that there is some responsibility associated with them, that once they are adopted, they take effect. If we don't have a means by which to provide for their enforcement or administration, I don't know what they do just by sitting on the books. All this simply does is just give us the time that is necessary for the committee to continue to do their work, to work with the city of Topeka in the interim time, to see if that is a feasible option, and to bring back a proposal to you, along with the original proposal with all the cost data that we have already generated. So this is just a stopgap measure associated with the adoption of the building code that gives us a process by which to administer those codes for whatever length of time is necessary for us to complete the balance of the county commission's instruction. That's all that this does. It doesn't intend to set up a completely new building code program or anything like that. It just provides for the means that if we're adopting the code, then this provides for their effective enforcement until the committee returns with their recommendation with regard to the city of Topeka and/or the county building code program as was originally recommended. That's all that this accomplishes.
Madam Chair. But Barry, if we were to look at page 4 of your proposed code, section 1.5, section A, it talks about whether you are a contractor or a private owner, that the first thing you're going to be doing is coming down requesting a permit. That's not what this commission discussed on December the 5th, and that wasn't the motion. I mean, if we just start at that point and don't go any farther than that, the whole permitting process wasn't what was contemplated on December the 5th by the commission motion.
Well, when I rose and asked a clarification question, I said, okay, does this include the adoption of the building codes, the affidavit of code compliance, the building code program fund? And you said, yes, but the last. And so the affidavit of code compliance then assumes that we have a mechanism in place that administers the building code. That affidavit of code compliance says that I, a licensed contractor within Shawnee County, am submitting this building permit application for you to process, and that I will build in accordance with your adopted code.
But, Mr. Beagle, I mean, at no point on December the 5th did we discuss the creation of a whole separate Board of Appeals. Bureaucracy is the word that I think Commissioner Archer used, and I railed against that word on that day, but that is what you're creating with this document.
Well, I beg to differ with you, Commissioner, with all due respect. I myself, if we adopt a building code and expect them to be administered in the interim time, I myself do not have the credentials or the background by which to interpret them. And if a contractor is going to submit an affidavit of code compliance saying that, yes, we will abide by this code, there are going to be circumstances where they may question the validity, well, not the validity, but the application or the interpretation of the code. Without a board of experts, and that's all that they would do, they would only convene when somebody is appealing or requesting an interpretation of the code. That's all that they basically do. And then they would come together, take a look at that specific code provision and how it's intended to be applied. And then they would render a decision for that contractor who could then move forward with their project.
Madam Chair, but on our discussion on December the 5th, I think that what was discussed would be that if Bill Kroll sells John Knight a house, and John Knight determines that there's some deficiency, he could hire Joe Ledbetter for a private cause of action, that there was a minimum code established. And I'm just pointing at individuals in the audience for the sake of the record that just happened to be present. But that's what was discussed on December the 5th, was creating a private cause of action, not the creation of a whole level of bureaucracy within the planning department.
Well, I do not see this, and forgive me, I don't intend to be argumentative, I don't see this as creating a bureaucracy. Essentially, to anybody who walks in the office to file a building permit, they will do so today as they did before we adopted this. The effect, as it is viewed by the building community, will essentially be the same. The only difference is that they will put up their credentials to be for their license to be recognized in the county, which is necessary for them then to submit an affidavit confirming that, yes, we will build in accordance with the building code. This, like I said, anybody else, walking in the office, they will go through the same process after this is adopted as they do today. It doesn't make it any more onerous or anything else like that. All it does is say, okay, if we're having a building code, this is the minimum requirements that are necessary to put that code in play and to enforce them. The code will not enforce itself, unfortunately. And if we're taking on the responsibility of adopting a code, then that means that Shawnee County is a player as part of that code. And so we are just holding people accountable that if they do desire to construct under this code in this interim phase, this phase 1, okay, then they will do so in accordance with the building code. And this is the way to assure that that is being completed. So,
Barry, did the committee go back and work on this resolution as well? Did you get?
We had
feedback?
discussions about that and what was the intent, behind it, and I'll certainly be happy to defer to them for additional comment. But yes, this was our understanding of what was going to be done. Now, the Appendix A, which is before you, is a fraction of what the original proposal submitted to you was for. And again, we struck those things that, would assume that we had a full functioning building code services division with a chief building official and a combination inspector, which is not part of this. This just sets up the mechanisms by which we can effectively administer the building code after it's adopted.
So
So-
I just want to check with the commission then. So if I'm hearing correctly, then you had intended only for Section 1A and B as items to be considered and not C and D. Is that correct? I mean, because if adoption of the building code is what was intended, then we have to have attachment, the Appendix A, correct? I'm just asking for clarification.
If I may, Madam
Yes.
Chair. Yeah, I don't think B, C, or D are necessary at this point. What I do believe is that if you look at Attachment A, page 36, which starts Article 4, Model Codes Adopted with Amendments, pages 36 and 37 could form the basis of a building code, and I've talked to County Councilor about cleaning it up. I noticed that none of this documentation is stamped by the legal department as far as being legal to form. But I think
It
that
was
should be
submitted for legalized to form.
It's not stamped as
I'm
legal.
sorry about that, but it was submitted with the understanding that it was going to be stamped for approved as a form.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Cook?
Director Beagle, were you not cautioned by the council's office that perhaps this document was going beyond what was directed on December the 5th, and that's the reason why it's not stamped as to form?
That was not conveyed to me. That we had discussions with regard to what this was supposed to be. Mr. Crowell and I came to the conclusion that this was the understanding that I and the committee had with regard to adopting Phase 1, the building code. And we agreed that, as a result, we would submit this to the county commission with the understanding that there would be debate before you, and if there was disagreement as to what was included in this, that there would be provisions struck. That was our discussion with regard to advancing this to the county commission.
Okay.
But you were cautioned that this was perhaps not what was contemplated by the commission.
I think there was some discrepancy on there was a motion made at our previous meeting, and there was then discussion after that, so it's not clear as to the intent of the commission. So that's my question, is any of this Section 1 agreeable to go forward with or not? I guess, or is it not to be supported at all at this time?
As Madam Chair, Commissioner Archer pointed out, if we were looking at the adoption of the code, which is page 36 and 30, that is consistent with what was presented to the commission as a first step, to get on the books a code as the first step, and then working to see if there's the possibility of an interlocal. If there was not the possibility of an interlocal, going back to then determining what our next course of action would be, but was just to establish a minimum code for the Shawnee County. So, that was my understanding.
So Section 1A on the resolution I'm
Yes.
looking at,
Yes, Madam Chair.
but not in its form right now.
So with regard to the affidavit of code compliance, which it was acknowledged on December 5th, which assumes that it's a licensed contractor walking into my office to file a building permit application that is or is not considered to be part of the proposal.
I would say no. I think what we need to do is take this language and indicate that that is a building code that is applicable for unincorporated Shawnee County, and come back and say We can use an affidavit process, standalone. We can do nothing. We can work with the city. We can build an empire in planning to do this. We can do a number of things, but I'd like to see an array of options with advantages, disadvantages, costs, and benefits. Because you were talking about spending $200,000 a year to build a staff, and to me, I don't think that's acceptable,
Which is a fee-based program,
which takes money away from the general fund,
0.1%.
$130,000.
So that, I'm hearing from you, Commissioner Archer, that Section 1B is not to be included.
Not for me, no, I wouldn't support that.
Matt,
B, C, or D.
Madam Chair, but where we're at today is this is a first reading.
It is.
And that's all that this is today, is a first reading. I think that, if the director has a feedback from the commission as to what is to happen if this was to proceed for approval, I think that it would be his decision as to whether or not he chose to withdraw this at this time or to have it to proceed with the indication of what that vote may be on the second reading.
I will withdraw it, and if you want me to bring something back that just implements Article 4, which is the adoption of the building codes, then that's all that I will do.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I would work closely with the county councilor's office because he had some ideas about how this could be improved. So I would agree with that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Director Riegel, I know that you're sensing a disappointment that we're not adopting this in full or as presented, but the intent was to create a first step, and not with the possibility of there being an interlocal agreement, the potential reunification of a planning department, to have a consistent planning, whether you're developing in the city or the county, and that's where the discussion went to. And again, we have a committee that we understand is working on the possibility of that. That is, before we go to this document, we need to make sure we have explored that as another option.
The affidavit of code of compliance, though, I did remember we had some discussion on that, and I think it was after we had a member of the public come to the podium, and I remember some support of that amongst this commission, so I don't know if didn't sound like that's going to be supported, just step one. So,
Well, again, when I rose to seek clarification, and the affidavit of code compliance was a specific point that I
It was.
raised, and that was acknowledged, but not the building code program fund, then that's the basis by which we proceeded.
sure. So I think you have some feedback now,
Okay.
Barry. And so we will, as far as record, do we need to pull this item, or how should we go forward?
I'll just make a motion to reject the resolution and move forward based on our discussion. Is that
Probably the
appropriate?
cleanest.
Probably the
Okay.
cleanest.
Is there anyone wanting to speak on this item, though, before we take any action?
Jim Crown, Shawnee County Councilor, yes, that would be appropriate.
So moved then.
There's a motion by Commissioner Archer. Is there a second?
I'm a second, but I do recognize there's some members of the public that wish to
Yes,
speak.
yes. Second by Commissioner Cook. And to clarify, the motion is to reject the home rule resolution. Ivan?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Ivan Weichert, President and CEO of the Topeka Home Builders Association. If nothing else, I am a good listener, and I have heard 2 no votes already, so I will not do battle with that and say that in the 30 years that I've been involved in this industry and involved in seeking codes for the county, I consider even the adoption of the codes to be a win. And I am patient and perseverant, and I will continue to work on this committee to eventually find the best fit for this action in unincorporated Shawnee County and see things move forward. So I'm sorry that we misinterpreted or misjudged, but it's not, to me, worth losing all that headway just to prove a point. So I'm happy to support it again.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting
Yeah,
to speak on this
I'd
item?
like to thank Ivan for his service. Thank you, and all the members of the committee. I see Chuck Deltmeyer coming up, and I'm sure he's going to fire up the crowd, too. But this is so important that we address this and do it right. That's what's holding us up from making a final decision. This is important. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Chuck Daltmeyer, home builder in Topeka and also in Shawnee County. And I've been on the committee since exploratory. And I get it, and I want the codes, and now I understand we didn't deliver what we wanted. But I would like to say, in support of the licensing, I went through that process back in 2012 when the city decided to do that, and it is very educating. So as I went through the codes, as I went through the test, I've done it all my life, and I thought, oh, that's why Dad had me do it that way. And I thought we could educate a lot of the new builders, even homeowners, because this does not restrict homeowners from building their own homes. We just want it done with good structure, good safety, and very energy conscious. We have enough homes that were built through the 50s and 60s that have virtually none of that. And even though we will not have inspectors by having the affidavit, that really is a good tool for the homeowner to use in the event we don't. As I build now, I used to build practically 100% in the city, and we do about 30 a year. We've switched over to doing about 90 in the county, and I guarantee you my clients do not know when we cross that line. They still expect, a home to be built as per code, and we do deliver that. In fact, in my spec sheet, it will say as per city's code and jurisdiction. So I would like to later, involve the licensing just for the fact that, that we will educate the public and new young builders. We're not out there to destroy anybody's livelihood with a license. And it will generate some income towards the eventual inspections. And I welcome inspections. I don't consider them an expense. I consider them a service from the city. And we don't have that out there. We have the home inspections, which for new housing, they're virtually useless. We go through that all the time. It's more of a liability coverage for realtors, but they do have their purpose in older homes, pointing out the deficiencies. In the new homes, they can't tell unless they went through that process, whether those footings are good or whether that bearing wall was built right. At that point, all they're looking at is cosmetic. So I do think eventually I'd like to see licensing and graduate our system, but this is a big step. So I'm willing to go back and work for code only, and maybe with the purpose later coming back for more. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Joseph Ledbetter. I have several clients that are opposed to extending codes into the unincorporated areas of the city. They're not here this morning, but one of the things that concerned me was the rapidity with which we brought this up and back during the holidays. A lot of people are not watching this. They're not paying attention yet, but government has consequences, especially if you're not paying attention. We just had a national election that repudiated a lot more regulation at the national level. Now, I'm going to delineate between incorporated areas and unincorporated areas. One of the principles in tort law is we live in a crowded world. And inside the city limits of Topeka, we have 125,000 people living here. Many of them are renters. They need protected by code enforcement, which, in my opinion, is not doing a very good job inside the city limits. And they have a staff of 16 and $1.7 million. Now, whether that's leadership or the fact it's not being run by the county, I don't know. But it's not very effective. It's probably about 20 to 25% effective. All you have to do is drive around the city and look at some of the neighborhoods near downtown and tell me that codes are being enforced. They are not.
not efficiently. So, one of the things that I'm concerned with is the area outside the city limits, if you do the math, is about 9 times larger in geographic area than the area inside the city limits of Topeka, which is about 60 miles versus 550 square miles. So that is a factor that you must consider if you're going to start looking at not just fee-based, but actually subsidizing such a program with tax dollars. I would tell you, based on the model of what the city's doing, which I would hope you don't adopt, it's not going to be effective, no matter how much money you pour into it when it comes to code enforcement. One of the things that delineates the incorporated areas versus the unincorporated areas is that outside the city limits, most of the people are homeowners. Many people have a farm. I've got 40 acres. I don't want code enforcement on my farm. And I'm not a full-time farmer by any means, but I have a farm outside the city. And I think there's a lot of people that have acreage that really do not need code enforcement, want code enforcement, or desire code enforcement. Many people are taking care of their properties just fine because they're homeowners. I'm not going to tell you everybody out there is perfect, but I don't see the need for this. I don't see a public outcry for it. And if there is, I'll certainly talk about the affidavit base. That's an interesting concept, which gives you a private cause action versus what the other things I heard. But I would like to see a fiscal note. We asked for that in the legislature on any new item brought before the legislature that has potential cost. Where's the fiscal note? How much would this really cost to implement based on taking it beyond the Article 4 and the things that Mr. Berry proposed today? And I'm not picking on him. I'm just saying that in politics, sometimes we forward lean. We do the things we weren't asked to do, and we need to get back to what was really asked and asked for, and then make sure that we're following that, and make sure that we're not going beyond the scope of what the policymakers asked for. So, you know, that's just something you do when you run a department. Obviously, I am for the rejection of this proposal. I do look forward to talking to the county councilor at some future point about streamlining this and making sure that my clients, who I represent, are getting something more acceptable than what was proposed today, if it's going to be proposed. So, thank you very much.
My name is Carol Marple, and I've listened this morning, and it seems like the only thing that I've heard is being discussed is building a house, other than Mr. Ledbetter's comments. This will affect all of us that agriculture is our living. I mean, I didn't read through all this with a fine-tooth comb, but, you know, our living is based on agriculture. Right now, farmers are not making any money. You throw in all these permits, and we have to have licensed contractors. You know, most farmers, if you give them a roll of duct tape and some baling wire, they can fix it. But it's not going to be up to code, but it'll work. And we just do not have the money to adhere to these rules if they come into effect. I think we have plenty of rules on the books now that we are not able to enforce, and I don't see any reason to add more of them. I think that every person in the county whose livelihood was based on agriculture, if they had read this, would be in this room telling you they don't want this. You know, and I appreciate, and again, I think Mr. Beagle and his group went to a lot of work, but I think also we need to have some more people on that group whose income is based on agriculture. And like I say, I thank you for rejecting it as it is read today, but you cannot have tunnel vision that this is just about building a house in the county. It is going to affect other people in the county. So thank you very much.
Anyone else wanting to speak on this item?
I just wanted to clarify one point, and that is, and I know I'm already in trouble, but if you read the resolution and consistent with state law and a recent AG opinion, this does not apply to agricultural use at all. So when it comes to ag buildings, silos, utility sheds, whatever, it would have no application at all. So if that provides any sense of assurance.
Well, and to add a little bit more in explanation, in our discussion about the comprehensive plan, it's actually looking at preserving ag land. I know that matter isn't before us, but that's being strongly considered. Another comment?
Thank you very much. I would like to say, and I hope the mindset of the commission and the county councilor's office, many, many years ago, my husband and I followed the rules, the laws in place, and we were rejected on a building permit that we wanted. And I met with a former county councilor and a former county commissioner. And in that meeting, that county councilor said to me, and I've never forgotten it, it doesn't matter what the laws are. The county can do whatever they want. So I'm not assured by the statements that agriculture is exempt. I don't think the law needs to be on the book.
Richard Faulkner, City of Topeka, Building Code. I just wanted to clarify a statement. I heard some reference to what we're looking at today, or what you're looking at today, is a building code, how a structure is built and how it's going to be occupied. There was some mention about property maintenance. That's a property code maintenance. That's a separate total issue, which is not before you today. That's cutting your grass, painting your house, picking up the trash, those items. So that's not what this is about. I just wanted to make sure that the commission was clear that property maintenance and building code are two separate and distinct items.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. But keep in mind, Barry, that then anything that comes before us, again, is a home rule resolution, so it'll have 2 readings. Next item, please.
Item D, corrections. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-436, 2016, with the City of Topeka to provide 2 correctional officers for supervision and 2 work crews for the Topeka Infrastructure Improvement and Code Compliance Program for work in 2017 at a cost to the city of $200,000 to be deposited into the Corrections Fiscal Year 2017 payroll budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. Before you take action on this, I just want to clarify a few points. This is a continuation of a program that we started with these terms when the county was in a less strengthened financial condition. And so we negotiated with the city to pay not only the salaries of our employees that are doing the work with the crews, but also reimburse us for the overtime that we would have to pay to have officers fill their positions in operations. So that's why the figure was set. And the figure since has become outdated, and so we are not actually recouping the actual cost to the county for these crews. We're going to be negotiating with the city to increase it in fiscal year 2018. And but we still think this is a good contract because the community benefits from these 2 crews that go out and do code enforcement cleanup. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have on this item.
Thanks, Tim. Any questions on this contract? Commissioner Archer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think for the record, we should note that we're subsidizing this program to the tune of about $48,000 with the city. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Major?
A portion of that is the salary adjustments that would have come from the CBIZ study that have taken place in the last 2 fiscal years. And the other is the cost for the payments we make to the actual inmates that go out, since they're trustee inmates, and we make payments to them out of our budget.
Yeah, I'd spoken to Brian Cole about this on a couple of occasions, and I'll make a motion to approve, but with the understanding that for 2018, we negotiate, and it's fully allocated costs that we charge the city to do this.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
I would second, noting also that it is probably prudent for us to review the cost of our inmate care, given the changes that we have going on at the Shawnee County Jail, to make sure that outside agencies that are utilizing our correctional facility are paying what the actual cost of the operations of the facility are. And it's just time to probably make sure that we're updating that as well. So.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer to approve the contract, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Number 2, consider approval of request to solicit bids for inmate medical and mental health services beginning January 1, 2018.
Commissioners, again, Tim Phelps, Department of Corrections. This item has a rather lengthy history. For the last several years, members of the department have been doing a lot of research and trying to find the best way forward to improve our mental health services and stabilize it as a comprehensive combination of mental health and medical services. After a lot of discussion, we've landed on the option of putting out an RFP to cover both categories of services so that we can find a company other than, or maybe still Corizon, but currently we've been in a contract with them for more than 10 years, and they've done good work, but it's time to take another look, we believe. And so this item is to go back out in this year with an RFP to start services in 2018.
Thank you, Tim. Other questions on this item?
I will make a motion to approve, and note that not only in this instance, but also in talking about management of the Expo Center, we're going to do an RFP for that too. And the reason is quite simple. It's because every time we've gone out for an RFP for services, we've saved tax dollars. The latest example is when we went out for AMR services, ambulance services, and we saved hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So I fully support this and move to approve.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Archer.
I'll second, but also noting that the RFP, while the savings of tax dollars that occurs, it also enables us to maybe redefine the scope of services that are being provided, change things in contracts that become outdated or unnecessary. And in this case specifically, we're talking about a whole new scope of delivery of service, specifically as we look at our mental health needs.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Item E, Public Works. Number 1, consider approval of resolution numbers 2016-91, 2016-92, and 2016-93, authorizing the transfer of unobligated Public Works operating budget funds.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Flanagan, Public Works. These 3 resolutions are annual resolutions that come before you, and it allows for the transfer of 25%, up to 25% of our unobligated 2016 Public Works operating budget into 3 accounts: our spatial bridge account, spatial machinery and equipment, and spatial highway. Public Works recommend the adoption of these resolutions, please.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions on these items?
Move to adopt the
It's a
resolutions.
motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 2, consider approval of final change order to contract C-215-2016 with Claver Construction Company, Inc. for the Southwest Urish Road Bridge over a tributary to the Kansas River, decreasing the original contract amount by $2,183.69.
Tom Flanagan, Public Works. Commissioners, this is a final change order with Claver Construction Company, which reconciles the as-bid to as-construction quantities. It resulted in the contract amount being decreased by $2,183. Project was funded with a 2004 countywide half-cent sales tax. We recommend approval.
On the approval.
So second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. Discussion, all in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-437, 2016 with KDOT for the Northwest 94th Street Bridge over Little Soldier Creek in an amount of $143,000 with costs being shared with Jackson County.
Commissioners, KDOT took bids on this particular project, Northwest 94th over Little Soldier Creek, on December 14th. Ebert Construction Company was red low. They got a good price. It's within the budget that we have. Our local match obligation for this project is $143,000 for basically a $650,000 bridge. Our share of the funding will come from the half-cent sales tax, and we recommend the approval to concur with KDOT for the award of this contract and authorization to pay KDOT our local match.
Thank you, Tom.
Madam Chair, I would move to approve the bid to Ebert Construction.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 4, consider approval to award bid to Ebert Construction for the Southwest 85th Street Bridge over tributary to the Wakarusa River and authorization and execution of Contract C-438, 2016 for same in an amount of $218,133.27.
Commissioners, we received bids for this project on December 7th. This is a county-administered project. We're responsible for 100% of the costs. It's within the budget, and the funding for it will be from the 2004 countywide half-cent sales tax. We recommend award of the contract to Ebert Construction.
Thank you, Tom.
Move to approve.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Item F, Counselor. Number 1, consider approval of request to negotiate with HTK Architects, PA, for architectural services for the design and project management of the Kansas Expo Center renovations.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Crow, County Councilor. On May 9th, 2016, this board issued a request for qualifications for architect services for the design and project management of the Kansas Expo Center renovations. 7 different firms responded. The Professional Selections Committee, who consisted of Rich Eckert, County Councilor, Pat Oblander, IT Director, Bill Kroll, Facilities Director, Tom Flanagan, Deputy Public Works Director, and a representative from SMG that spent considerable time reviewing those proposals, checking references, and actually participated in site visits at other facilities that had been designed by some of the responding firms. As recommended by the Professional Services Selection Committee, this item requests that the Board of County Commissioners authorize the County Councilor to negotiate a contract with HTK for the requested services. Any proposed contract will be in draft form that'll be brought back for final approval by the Board of County Commissioners. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Jim.
Madam
Any
Chair.
questions? Commissioner Cook?
Commissioners, when this item was before or rather presentation was before the Commissioners by HTK, there was some discussion about the facility design and whether or not, specifically by myself, as to equine, how much the equine would take up of the budget, the design of that. Having done a little bit of research and discussions with HTK, it would be my request that after awarding the bid to HTK, that we have a discussion about maybe having a market study, looking at a return of investment, a risk analysis as to what the facility is actually going to look like, which is probably step 2. And then from there, we would be able to have our budget and design, but really directing HTK that we need to have a really in-depth analysis of what this facility is going to look like and what we're going to get for our $45 million. So, but I would move to award the bid to HTK at this point.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Cook,
I'll second and say that's a great idea. Thank you for that.
second by Commissioner Archer, and again, this is to have the county councilor's office negotiate the contract that will
Yes.
come before us at a
Yes.
later date.
Yes.
All those in favor, anyone in the audience wanting to speak on this item, please come up to the podium. All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
And I will say, we tentatively scheduled a meeting, Mr. Smith and I, to start this process. So
Very good.
we'll start next week.
Good. And I would encourage conversation with all the commission and yes, public. I know there was lots of public discussion built into the proposal too, so yes.
Absolutely.
Very
This
good.
will be the beginning of a process.
Exactly. Okay.
Thank you.
Number 2, consider approval of request to solicit bids for comprehensive management and operation services of the Kansas Expo Center for services beginning January 1, 2018.
Commissioners, Jim Crowell, County Councilor, again, for the record. One of Mr. Eckert's last projects as County Councilor was to draft this request for proposals. As you are aware, the current 5-year contract for the management and operation of the Kansas Expo Center expires at the end of 2017. This RFP will start a 6-month process where we will be receiving proposals. The professional selection committee, again, will be reviewing those proposals with the goal of having a selection back in place and a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Same process, then authorize entering into a contract with a contract in place by mid-year, around July 1st, so there would be sufficient time for a transition period before the current contract expires at the end of 2017. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
A lot of work yet to do.
Yes.
I'll move to approve the request. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions?
But, Madam
comments?
Chair, Mr. Crowell, can you just, maybe for the public and those that maybe aren't aware, the Professional Selection Committee, how is this committee made up? How are they selected? They have a big role in the RFP and had a big role in the selection of the architect, HTK, just a moment ago.
They do, and this board has previously authorized the committee just for this type of purpose and has established, and the members that I read off before, the county councilor, the IT director, the facilities director, the public works director, all are representatives on the committee to try to provide a varied level of expertise in reviewing proposals for making that, and it is a non-binding recommendation, but it is a recommendation based upon that expertise and experience. That's the process that you've set up, and I think it's a good process.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Well, and one of the key themes, I think, of the RFP is to look for specific expertise as far as construction and maintenance of a facility, and I think that's very, very important. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
It's a motion by Commissioner Bueller, second by Commissioner Cook. Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item? All those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Item G, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider approval of request to solicit bids for the purchase of 14,000 pounds of rainbow trout for the annual stocking events at Lake Shawnee at an estimated cost of $40,000 annually, with 100% reimbursement from the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. Before we get into that item, I'd like to tell the Commissioners that Bill Kroll and I have settled our differences on the house he was trying to sell me, because I didn't want to hire Mr. Ledbetter to represent me, so we've settled ours. This item, Commissioners, has been the purchase of trout and the stocking of Lake Shawnee and some other fishing areas around the county is a program which we partner with the state of Kansas, and they use federal dollars to reimburse us. All of the rest of around the state, they take bids. Our bids are different. The 1 year we followed the state bids on trout, we received a lot of complaints that they actually provide more trout, but smaller trout. The people at Lake Shawnee wanted to have the larger trout. So we have our own specs, yet they still are reimbursing us for 100% of those costs. Any specific details about this program or how we implement it, John Boyd, our Green Space Superintendent, is in the back. I'd be glad to answer them.
Thanks, Sean. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-440-2016 with the Greater Topeka Rowing Development Association, which will allow the club to utilize the facilities in Lake Shawnee through December 31st, 2017.
Commissioners, over the past 2 or 3 years, actually since the implementation of the master plan, we've changed some of the agreements slightly, but as we begin to move forward, I anticipate some of the ones out at Lake Shawnee, this one, and there's be another one listed later on the agenda that we'll address, may have more significant changes to them, but we're not ready to make those changes yet, so we wanted to extend to the Rowing Development Association a 1-year extension so they could plan for their programs and events for 2017. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, John. I'll move approval of the contract.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 3, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-441-2016 with the Shawnee Yacht Club, which will allow the club to utilize the facilities in Lake Shawnee through December 31st, 2017.
Commissioners, this would be the real similar rationale to I just gave you, but for the Shawnee Yacht Club at Lake Shawnee.
Move to approve the contract.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Archer, second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 4, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-442-2016 with Media USA to allow Parks and Recreation to purchase 2017 advertising on informational kiosks in local hotels at a cost of $1,000.
Commissioner Mike McLaughlin, our public information and public relations manager, is here too to answer any questions. But we've looked at putting some of our information out to draw visitors that are here to Topeka and Shawnee County already and draw them out to the Lake Shawnee for those type of things, and we recommend the purchase of that authority. But if you have any specific questions, I know he's here and he's researched this pretty well.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
I would move for approval.
So motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 5, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-443-2016 with the Shawnee County Amateur Baseball Association to allow the association to utilize Bettis Family Sports Complex and other county facilities for an additional 3 years.
Commissioners, this is an extension of the contract with the Shawnee County Amateur Baseball Association, which runs the youth baseball program out at Lake Shawnee. We set the parameters, the guidelines of how we want them to run that program, and then they actually run it for us. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
John, the contracts that were number 2 and number 3 were for 1 year, and you mentioned that perhaps there might be some changing coming up in the future, but this would be a 1-year extension. This is a 3-year extension, and we've had this agreement with the Shawnee County Amateur Baseball Association for a lengthy period of time. Why 3 years on this, but only 1 year for the prior two?
Many of the things that, the principles that we wanted to begin to add into these other contracts, we had already added those into the Shawnee County Amateur Baseball Association one. The other difference is some of the hotel bookings, some of the major events are 2 and 3 years out in advance. This gives them a little bit more time to do that.
How long? Do you have another question? Okay. How long ago did we go out for RFP for this? We did, but
Sean, do you remember?
It's been some time.
RFP for
For
this?
SCABA?
I don't have that right.
Okay.
Handy, I think it was at least 3 or 4 years
Yeah,
back.
okay. And we had
And they were the only ones that
This would be-
came forward to want to operate with us.
That's what I
Okay.
remembered. Okay, thank you. Further questions? Is there a motion?
I would so move.
Motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sean.
Item H, Expo Center. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C 444, 2016 with Grand Lodge of Kansas for use of Ag Hall on March 16, 2018 for the annual luncheon at a cost of $1,674 to Grand Lodge of Kansas.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin Gregory, Kansas Expo Center. As mentioned today in today's meeting, that the SMG's current management contract with Shawnee County expires at the end of 2017. We do have many customers and that would like to continue on their contracts 2018 and beyond, again, for reasons mentioned, hotel reservation room blocks and planning purposes. This is just the first of many that we'll be presenting to you. County Councilor and I spoke earlier this morning about how to format this on our contracts, and just wanted to present this for your approval.
Yes, we'll see probably a few more of these throughout.
Quite a
the
few more of
year.
these.
I hope so. I hope so. Are there questions?
Move to approve the contract.
It's a motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Item I, Emergency Management. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C 445, 2016 with the U.S. Department of the Interior, United States Geological Survey for operation of a stream gauge on the Wakarusa River near Wakarusa at a cost to the county of $4,080.
Morning, Commissioners. Nelson Castile, Emergency Management. This is just the annual bill that we get for the Wakarusa stream gauge that's down on Jordan Road, just outside of the city of Wakarusa there. I believe this is at least the 6th or 7th year that we've done this, and the contract will come before you normally in the springtime, and then they bill us at the end of the fiscal year.
Thanks, Nelson. Questions on this item?
Move to approve.
It's a motion to approve by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 2, consider approval of request to reject 2 bids received from the Shawnee County Hazardous Material Exercise and reissue the RFP in order to meet the required 3 proposal minimum for consideration.
Good morning, Commissioners. As part of our year-long Operation Pegasus, which is the training exercises and the other activities involved with the hazardous materials plan, we put out an RFP to have a contractor do some of that work. The guidelines from the state and also the federal government as a part of that grant process said that we had to have 3 sealed bids. We only received 2, so we would like to reject them and put it out again. Due to time constraints, so we will change some of the deliverables because it will take some time to get more responses back in, and we've already got a lot of things scheduled for March and April.
Thanks, Nelson. Any questions on this item?
Move to approve.
No. Motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item J, Sheriff's Office. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C 446, 2016 with Rick Ladke for maintenance services at the Sheriff's Office Training Complex at a cost of $1,800 per month payable from the federal forfeiture account.
Good morning, Commissioners. Captain Colbeck with the Sheriff's Office. This is an annual contract with Mr. Ladke for our training complex. We've had a contract with him for the last several years, and we get quite a bit of work out of him for what we pay him, and manages to do a good job for us.
All right. Any questions? Commissioner Archer?
What does he do for $1,800 a month?
He does anything we ask him to do as it relates to the training complex. He sets up, tears down our classroom for different trainings that we put on, which is quite frequently shovels snow, mows grass, makes repairs. Really, anything maintenance-related we ask him to do, and he lives close. He responds 24/7 as needed.
So end-to-end maintenance of the facility?
Correct.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Any further questions, Commissioner?
No, thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Cook?
Inquire of our counselor, they're using federal forfeiture funds. This should be a motion to acknowledge, should it not?
It's a contract then.
Good morning, Commissioner Jim Crowell. County Councilor, again, we have started our discussions that we referenced, I believe, last week on these types of contracts, and I don't know that we've reached a consensus between my office and the sheriff's office yet as to exactly what should have my stamp on it or not, and what should have the commission's signature line on it or not. And there are several issues to consider along that process. In terms of this, I think the question about the forfeiture funds, I believe that is within the sheriff's purview to spend those funds. So I think I would prefer that the commission acknowledge receipt on this one. I don't mind approving as to form and legality as the county councilor, but I don't think this is one that needs a signature block from the county commission. If that, all of that makes sense.
My concern was just that if we're entering into a contract regarding the forfeiture funds and the lines of responsibility as they relate to the federal forfeiture funds and how they're spent, whether or not the county was a party to a contract or if it was done under the official purview of the sheriff. And so, given that and the direction from our counselor, I would move to acknowledge receipt.
Acknowledge receipt of the contract.
Correct.
With no signature block from the chair.
Correct.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. But Jim, I guess I would, for the next chair coming in, which will happen very, very soon.
Right.
This is confusing.
Yes.
I think it's confusing to the public, too, and we need to
It
make
is.
sure we reach some consensus on this so that, as chair, you know where to place it, how to word it, that sort of thing. That would be
Yes,
helpful.
and there are several issues to consider. It's a complicated issue.
It is.
One issue is, does the proposed contract involve a county facility that's owned by the county? That would be a reason why the Board of County Commissioners would want to approve that, if there was something related to county property. Is there some sort of legal liability that the county would be assuming in the contract, or would be required to enforce the terms of the contract? Those types of contracts, I think, should be signed by the county, regardless of the elected official involved. As you know, there's the general rule that once funds are allocated through the budgeting process, generally, the elected official has discretion on how to spend them. But that's not always the end of the story. If we're dealing with county property, if we're dealing with liabilities that the county may be dragged into, those are all issues that need to be considered. So that's a discussion that we've started. We haven't completed it yet, but I hope to get some clarity so that everyone, as these come across, it'll be easier for everyone to acknowledge, yeah, this is one that probably shouldn't be signed by the commission, or this one should be.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let's do it quick.
I think you're in the rotation to become chair, right? Next item, please.
Number 2, acknowledge receipt of correspondence from the sheriff indicating they will be purchasing 4 Eaton Universal Power Supplies from a sole source provider, Motorola Solutions, at a cost of $15,310 using 2016 budget funds.
Good morning, Captain Colbeck, Sheriff's Office. As stated, the sheriff does intend to purchase these. This is kind of an interim backup between when the generator would kick on should we lose power to our communications center. It recently, during periodic testing, was determined to need to be replaced, and so therefore we've made this decision to purchase these items.
Thank you. I'll move to acknowledge receipt.
I'll second that.
Correspondence, and second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item K, Facilities Management. Number 1, consider approval to solicit proposals to provide elevator maintenance services at the Shawnee County Courthouse, North Annex, Shawnee County Department of Corrections, Election Office, and Shawnee County Parks and Recreation locations.
Morning, Commissioners. Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This is one of the RFP situations that Commissioner Archer was mentioning. We have been with ThyssenKrupp Elevator for about 15 years now. It'll be 15 years in March. And I think it's probably high time we take a look at somebody else and see what we can do. And also to, as Commissioner Cook said, maybe clean up some of the things that we'd like to see in that contract.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Cook.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archer. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Number 2, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-447, 2016, with Americrete, Inc. for drainage improvements and concrete replacement at the Shawnee County North Annex at a cost of $54,053 from the Deferred Capital Maintenance Fund.
Bill Kroll, Facilities Maintenance Director. This is actually the formal contract accepting the proposal that you acknowledged last week, I believe it was, with Americrete for the work that Tom Flanagan generously put together for us at the North Annex. So,
Thank you. Questions?
Move to approve the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Archer.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Item L, Information Technology. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of Contract C-448, 2016 with Tyler Technologies for purchase of a hardware platform at a cost of $11,350 from the IT 2016 budget.
Good morning, Commissioners. Pat O'Blinder with the Information Technology Department. This item is a bit of follow-up from an item that was approved by the Commission back on December 19th. The item that was approved then was not to exceed $20,000 price tag for a purchase of an RS-6000 message switch. We placed an order for the piece of equipment, and instead of an invoice, we received an amendment to the existing contract that's in place between the county and Tyler Technologies for the New World Records Management System, and we need a signature from the Commissioners in order to complete that purchase. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thanks, Pat. Any questions?
So move to approve.
It's a motion by Commissioner Cook and second by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item M, Administrative Services. Number 1, consider approval of request to transfer excess 2016 Parks and Recreation budgeted funds to the Parks and Recreation Building Maintenance Fund, and to transfer any unused 2016 funds from the general fund budget not designated for other purposes to the Capital Outlay Fund for the continuation of addressing deferred maintenance items.
Betty Greiner, Director of Administrative Services. As she read, there are really 2 parts to this request. The first is we've had several discussions on Parks and Rec deferred maintenance that needs to be addressed. We've talked about it in the budget hearings, the capital outlay discussions, and then recently we had a work session where the Parks and Rec Committee discussed this also. We've also discussed throughout the year how this year has been an unusual year for Parks and Recreation, and they are actually under budget significantly on their expenditures, mainly some weather issues that happened. The Midwest Health Aquatic Center was delayed in opening, and so we had budgeted those expenses for the whole summer. Other items too, but because of that, their expenses are significantly under budget for this year. So what I'm requesting is to transfer the remaining funds that we will determine after the end of the year here, and transfer those to the Parks and Rec Building Maintenance Fund to be used for deferred maintenance on those county park properties. I think this would be a good use of those funds, and this is kind of a one-time situation, and I think we can take advantage of this one-time situation to address some of those deferred maintenance issues that are out there. The second piece is similar. I'd like to transfer the unused 2016 budgeted expenditure funds from the general fund. I'd like to transfer those to the capital outlay fund, and those could be used for deferred maintenance items for county properties or any other capital outlay items that could come up. Along those lines, I will mention that as we have had revenues that have come in a little over budget this year, those items will go into the reserves at the end of the year. That would not be affected by this. This would just be on the expenditure side.
Betty, then how soon after 2016's ended, the first financial update we'll have for January as far as?
Well, we can have a January, we will have a January update probably in February.
Okay.
The problem with having a December update that early is that we still have utilities coming in that we will, for services through 16 that will have to be backdated to that, and so it will probably be February or March before I can really give you a year-end numbers.
Okay.
But as far as 17, we'll start fresh.
Sure.
And so we can start giving financial updates on 17
in January.
In February.
In February,
Yeah,
okay.
for January in February. But as far as year-end numbers, that will take a little while before we actually have that.
All right. Good, thank you. Any questions on this item?
Move to approve, noting that we do have a number of items for deferred maintenance. We've already designated a number of items from our budget for capital outlay, but I think that in our working group with Parks and Rec's Advisory Board, they identified close to a little over $800,000 worth of deferred maintenance within Parks and Recreation as well. And so this is a need that needs to be addressed by the county, and I think this is a good use of the funds to do that.
So, motion by Commissioner Cook,
I agree, and I'll second that motion.
second by Commissioner Archer. I might just add that I know we've talked about capital outlay, deferred maintenance for, next year, but we haven't done any long-term projections.
Yes.
And I think we really need to look at, 3 to 5 years out on capital needs in our budget for 18, of course. So, all those in favor say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Thanks, Betty.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Good morning, Commissioners. Justin Gregory, Kansas Expo Center. Just wanted to give you an update on this weekend's events at the Kansas Expo Center. Roadrunners are back in town for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday 3-game homestand. Puck drops at 7:05 Friday, Saturday, 2:05 on Sunday, also New Year's Day. So just wanted to let everybody know that. And also, we are hosting various public skates throughout the week, which have been very, very well attended. And those dates and times are on the website.
Good. Great, thank you, Justin. Anyone else for administrative communications?
Carol Marple, this is just a suggestion, and it's probably really too late to maybe do anything about, but since you're doing work at the Shawnee County North Annex, as I recall, the parking in front of the building is designated for customers, which is great, and I think the employees, though, park other places, and there's a ditch that runs the full length of the building almost. While you're doing work out there, I think it would sure be an improvement for the employees if there could be some steps across the ditch with a handrail or something, maybe make it a little shorter and a little safer for them. And it's just a suggestion. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Commissioners. Larry Moss, Shawnee County Treasurer. Just a reminder, we will be closed to the public in the Treasurer's office tomorrow for our end-of-year reconciliation. And then just one last note, how about those Wildcats?
And taxes are past due, right?
Thanks, Larry. Anyone else with administrative communications? This is just a note that we will not be in session on Monday in observation of New Year's Day for our employees who will have off, most of our employees. We will be back in session on January 5th. So, Commissioners?
Madam Chair, just really the announcement made yesterday about the finalization of the purchase of the Grace Med building and the old Dillons. Those of us that have been watching on the sidelines, it's hard to keep a secret sometimes when you know something good is coming to your community. And so I'm just really very happy and grateful that this building will be used for community health. This is what this board had envisioned all the way back when we started with, the planning process, going through, working with Grace Med. This is kind of seeing things come to fruition. Sometimes it takes years to get there, but this is a good move.
It's been a couple of years, yeah.
Yes.
It was starting with the Safety Net Summit and all those discussions, yes. It was a great announcement.
Yes.
It really was. Be looking forward to see how everything develops there, and great for the neighborhood. Yeah. Commissioner Archer? Do you have anything?
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. I can scratch that off my list. The only thing I've got left is Happy New Year to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next item. Oh,
How about this new desk?
Really?
It has made it easier to communicate instead of
is.
having to go like this and this, so, but
And the chairs are much better, too, for
they are.
people that have
They are.
back problems.
A new look, and I don't know how many years. How many years, Jane? Yeah. I think we got our use out of that desk and those chairs. Next item, please.
Executive session?
And I do not believe there is a need, so we are adjourned. Everybody, Happy New Year.